On July 29, 1981, the world watched, holding its breath, as a fairy tale unfolded. But behind Lady Diana Spencer's dazzling smile and the sparkle of diamonds adorning her head lay an invisible choice, a quiet family drama that never made the headlines. We all remember that iconic image, a young, almost shy Lady Di, the legendary Spencer tiara gleaming on her head. Yet, behind the scenes of that magical fairy tale, another, far more lavish and significant diadem lay hidden, the one Diana didn't wear. Prepare yourselves, because the story you're about to hear will forever change your perspective on the Queen of Hearts and her famous wedding. Read on to uncover it all. To truly grasp the story of the Spencer tiara, we must transport ourselves in our minds to England at the close of the 19th century. This was an era of unyielding traditions and rigid hierarchy, where the standing of an aristocratic family was measured not only by titles and lands, but also by the dazzling display of their ancestral jewels. A tiara at a ball or a court reception was never merely an accessory. It was a declaration. It silently proclaimed the family's ancient lineage, their immense wealth, and most crucially, the elevated status of a married woman, the undisputed mistress of her home and a vital link in the dynastic chain. Unlike many royal diadems, which were designed from a single sketch for a specific queen, the Spencer tiara is a living organism, a jewelry chronicle written across generations. It wasn't born in the workshop of a single genius, but rather assembled piece by piece, like a precious mosaic. Each of its elements holds the memory of its own era and of the family member who contributed it to the collective treasury. It wasn't a commission, but a process that unfolded over decades. It all began with individual gifts and inheritances. According to one account, the central diamond-encrusted floral motif was a wedding gift to Lady Sarah Isabella Spencer from a distant relative, Viscountess Montague, as far back as the 1890s. Other parts, graceful diamond scrolls and flourishes, were already part of the family's collection. These had been independent brooches and ornaments, patiently awaiting their moment. That moment arrived in the 1930s, when the family decided to unite these scattered treasures into a single, harmonious whole. This intricate task was most likely undertaken by the master craftsmen of the renowned jewellery house Garrard, long-standing purveyors to the British aristocracy and the royal court. It was their genius that managed to seamlessly fuse fragments from different eras, crafting the very tiara we recognize today, harmonious, light, and exquisitely elegant. Thus, the initial vision extended far beyond merely creating a beautiful ornament. The Spencers weren't commissioning a new tiara, they were forging a symbol of continuity. They were weaving threads of the past into a design contemporary for their time, materializing their family's history in gold and diamonds. The tiara was meant to be more than just a ceremonial headpiece. It was a living testament to the enduring strength of their lineage, destined to be passed from mother to daughter, from daughter-in-law to daughter-in-law, binding generations together with invisible ties. Let's set aside names and titles for a moment and examine the Spencer tiara through the eyes of a jeweler. Imagine holding it in your hands. Despite its ethereal, almost weightless appearance, you would feel the pleasing, reassuring heft of precious metals. The cool gleam of platinum, where most of the stones are set for maximum brilliance, and the warm, subtly visible gold base. This is the very first thing you'd sense, the weight of history. Take a close look at its design. This isn't a bulky, imposing crown designed to overpower. It's an elegant garland, a veritable hymn to femininity and natural grace. Its festoon-style design evokes the delicate intertwining of flowers. At the heart of the composition lies its centerpiece, that very wedding gift from a century ago. This is a stylized flower, studded with antique rose-cut and cushion-cut diamonds that shimmer with a soft, almost candlelight glow, rather than the aggressive sparkle of modern stones. It is the tiara's very heart, its historical and symbolic anchor. From the center, elegant scrolls branch out in both directions, crowned with shapes reminiscent of either tulip buds or stars. And here lies the chief secret of its ingenious construction. The jewelers at Garrard performed a true marvel of engineering. They didn't melt down the old brooches and pendants. Instead, they crafted a special framework onto which these family jewels could be mounted as interchangeable elements. The tiara was, in essence, a transformer. Any of its parts could be detached and worn as an individual brooch. It was a living, adaptable piece, capable of conforming to its wearer and to any specific occasion. Every diamond within it bears witness to its own era. Here, Victorian cut stones, with their deep pavilions and broad facets, sit side by side with later, round Edwardian-era diamonds. To gaze upon the Spencer tiara is like studying a geological cross-section of time, where each layer of rock recounts its own period. It's not just a collection of stones, it's an anthology of jewelry styles gathered under one roof. But its deepest code lies not in its carat weight, but in its symbolism. Floral motifs have always spoken of love, fertility, and beauty. Unlike imperial tiaras, with their austere meanders and laurel wreaths symbolizing power and triumph, the Spencer tiara speaks of something else entirely: the values of the landed aristocracy, a love for their gardens, and the continuity not of dominion, but of family. It doesn't shout of might, it whispers of elegance and legacy. Its very anatomy is the anatomy of an entire lineage, where each part is vital, yet only together do they form a single, unbroken whole. The tiara's first true triumph wasn't heralded by newspaper headlines or the flash of cameras. It was quiet, aristocratic, and no less significant for it. After the Garrard jewelers completed their work in the 1930s, the honor of first presenting this revitalized family emblem to the world fell to Lady Cynthia Spencer, Diana's grandmother. She was a woman who embodied the British aristocracy, reserved, elegant, and devoted to the crown. She served as a lady-in-waiting to Queen Elizabeth, who would later become the Queen Mother. Picture a state reception at Buckingham Palace from that era. The halls sparkled with crystal and gilding, the air filled with the rustle of silk and the soft clink of medals. And there, amidst the massive imperial diadems worn by the royal family, appeared Countess Spencer. She wore a tiara that seemed almost alive. It didn't oppress with its monumentality, but rather gracefully crowned her coiffure like a delicate foam of diamonds. Its light, reflected from thousands of candles in the chandeliers, was soft, refined. It drew the eye without dazzling. In circles where every stone tells a story and the provenance of a jewel matters more than its price tag, the Spencer tiara, in its finalized form, created a sensation of a very particular kind. It was a triumph of taste and family pride. Connoisseurs whispered about the ingenious solution of the jewelers who had managed to weave together disparate relics. Even rivals conceded that the Spencers had once again asserted their status by creating a masterpiece that rivaled even royal pieces. It was at that very moment that the ornament transformed from a mere collection of diamonds into a legend. It became more than a tiara. It became a declaration of identity. Its graceful lines conveyed not imperial power, but the refined elegance of the old aristocracy, whose wealth lay not only in their lands, but also in the unbroken continuity of generations. The Spencer tiara became the final flourish in the image of the quintessential English countess. From that point on, its destiny was sealed. It became the family's primary bridal heirloom. It was Lady Cynthia who established the tradition that would make this tiara iconic. Decades later, before the world came to know Diana, her elder sisters, Lady Sarah and Lady Jane, would wear this same diadem at their own weddings. That first triumph blossomed into a family ritual, setting the stage for the tiara's most renowned appearance in its history. And then came that day, July 29th, 1981. The full weight of royal traditions descended upon the shoulders of a 20-year-old woman. As the future Princess of Wales, protocol dictated that she should wear a tiara from the Queen's own vaults. Queen Elizabeth II offered her soon-to-be daughter-in-law the famous Cambridge Lover's Knot tiara, an incredibly valuable and significant heirloom. But Diana, in her first and perhaps most pivotal decision as a member of the royal family, politely declined. Her choice fell upon the Spencer tiara. This was more than just an act of selection. It was a quiet declaration of independence. By choosing her family's heirloom, she showed the world that she was entering the royal house not as a petitioner, but as a representative of one of England's most ancient aristocratic lineages. She remained a Spencer. Moreover, the tiara, familiar from childhood, was significantly lighter and more comfortable than a heavy royal diadem, and on this momentous day, Diana needed not a symbol of power, but a piece of home, something comforting and familiar. For Diana, it was more than a treasure. It became her talisman. In the rigid, often alien world of palace protocol, where every step and word was under intense scrutiny, the Spencer tiara was her anchor, her connection to her past, freer life, to her father and sisters. When she wore it, she wasn't just wearing diamonds, she was wearing the protection and memory of her lineage. This piece of jewelry was her personal shield, forged from light and family pride. It was in Diana's hands that the tiara experienced its absolute golden age. It became an integral part of her image, her calling card on the global stage. She gleamed in it at state banquets in Australia, Canada, and New Zealand, becoming a symbol of the new, youthful, and modern face of the British monarchy. Newspapers worldwide published photographs where the light floral garland perfectly framed her famous haircut and accentuated the sparkle in her eyes. Other, more official tiaras she wore later were always perceived as part of a uniform, as props for the role of Princess of Wales. But the Spencer tiara was her own, an extension of her personality. She wore it with a special, effortless grace, as if it were the most natural adornment in the world. She didn't merely wear the tiara, she brought it to life, imbuing it with her energy and charisma. During this period, the jewel and its wearer merged into a single, inseparable image. It became impossible to imagine Diana without her tiara, or the tiara without Diana. It ceased to be merely a Spencer family heirloom. It became Princess Diana's tiara, a symbol of fairy tale, love, and hope for millions around the world. It was in the hands of this icon of style and humanity that the tiara reached the pinnacle of its fame, achieving immortality. But behind the dazzling glare of spotlights and the adoration of the crowds, shadows gathered. The tiara, which had become the symbol of a fairy tale, in truth became a silent witness to its undoing. It crowned Diana's head not only in moments of triumph, but also on those evenings when, returning to the palace, the princess was left to face her solitude. Each time she removed it, the cold diamonds remained mute custodians of her tears and disappointments. This stark contrast between her luminous public image and her tragic private life cast the first and deepest shadow upon this exquisite piece. Yet, the deepest secret of the Spencer family's treasure trove, the very mystery we promised to reveal at the outset, is that Princess Diana's famous tiara had a twin sister. This is no myth, no mere legend. It is a documented fact, one that was virtually erased from public memory by the dazzling fame of the Princess of Wales. Left in the shadows was another, older and more monumental Spencer tiara, known as the honeysuckle. This second tiara was crafted around the 1880s and stood as a magnificent example of Victorian jewelry artistry. An intricate pattern of diamond scrolls and honeysuckle leaves was crowned by large pearls. It was more formal, heavier, and perhaps more regal than the one Diana ultimately chose. It had been worn by Charlotte Spencer, wife of the 5th Earl, and later by Cynthia, Diana's grandmother, before the lighter floral diadem was assembled. Why, then, did Diana forego this majestic treasure? The official narrative cites personal taste and comfort. But in aristocratic circles, a different story was whispered. Diana's choice wasn't merely a matter of style, it was a choice between the past and the future. The honeysuckle tiara embodied old Victorian England, its strictness and primness. The delicate floral garland, by contrast, symbolized a new era, one more free and human. Perhaps intuitively, Diana chose a piece of jewelry that resonated not with her status, but with her spirit. And this brings us to a truly scandalous, almost unbelievable fact. The fate of the forgotten tiara proved tragic. In the late 1980s, during a period of financial hardship, Diana's stepmother, Reign Spencer, made a decision unthinkable for the old aristocracy. The honeysuckle tiara, a treasured family relic, was sold at auction. This act caused shock and condemnation. Selling off ancestral jewels had always been considered a last resort, an admission of decline. Thus, while one Spencer tiara shone on the head of the world's most famous woman, its sister was irrevocably lost to the family, becoming a symbol of a break with tradition and bitter necessity. The divorce, finalized in August of 1996, was more than just a legal decree. It was a guillotine, severing fairy tale from reality. And it was at this very moment that the Spencer tiara's most brilliant era began to end. The adornment that symbolized Diana's entry into the royal family now became a symbol of her expulsion from it. Unlike other royal regalia, which she was obligated to return to the crown, the Spencer tiara remained with her. Formally, it still belonged to her family, to her father. But it was cold comfort. Its golden age had ended abruptly. After the divorce, Diana never again wore the family tiara in public. The jewel, once her faithful companion at the pinnacle of her fame, suddenly became orphaned. Its light dimmed along with her fading title of Her Royal Highness. Then, in August of 1997, tragedy struck, plunging the world into mourning. And at that moment, the era definitively ended. The Spencer tiara transformed from a living symbol into a relic. It came to rest on the dark velvet of a safe at the ancestral Althorpe estate, and its light extinguished for many years. This was its life in the shadows, a time of sorrow and silence when any public display of this treasure would have felt sacrilegious. The world no longer anticipated her appearances at receptions and banquets. The diamonds, which once reflected the spotlights and the princess's smile, now held only silence and memory. Diana's era concluded, and with it, her most famous jewel faded into oblivion, becoming a silent monument on the altar of a fairy tale that never fully came to be. For many years after the tragedy, the Spencer tiara remained in complete silence, locked away in a safe at the Althorpe ancestral estate. The world, it seemed, had resigned itself to never seeing its sparkle again. But Diana's brother, Charles, the 9th Earl Spencer, made a decision that granted the treasure a second, entirely different life. In 1998, he organized a touring exhibition, Diana, a celebration of life, and the principal, central exhibit, the one that drew the hearts of millions, was her tiara. This was its second birth, but in an entirely new capacity. The ornament left the velvet of the family jewelry box not to adorn a hairstyle at a ball, but to appear before the world behind bulletproof glass, like a sacred relic. For the first time in its history, it became an object not of social admiration, but of quiet, mournful pilgrimage. People lined up for hours, not just to gaze at diamonds, but to touch a piece of history, to pay tribute to the woman who wore it. A remarkable metamorphosis occurred. From a living, dynamic accessory, which played with light at every turn of the princess's head, the tiara transformed into a frozen artifact. Its sparkle became different, colder, more detached, melancholic. If before it was a symbol of a living fairy tale, now it became a monument to a life tragically cut short. Its new reading was devoid of joy and hope. Now it spoke of loss, of memory, and of how fragile human destiny can be, even amidst the most magnificent jewels. This new status catapulted its value into the stratosphere. Its worth was no longer determined by the weight of its diamonds or the prestige of the Garrard jewelry house. Its primary value, its provenance, was priceless. No auction in the world could adequately appraise an item so inextricably intertwined with the image and fate of the Queen of Hearts. It became a national treasure, though it remained privately owned. And yet, the tiara did not become a permanent museum exhibit. In 2018, and then again in 2022, it sparkled once more at the weddings of Diana's nieces, Lady Celia McCorquodale and Lady Amelia Spencer. This gesture demonstrated that despite its iconic status, it is still alive as a family heirloom. It returned to its original role, to crown the brides of the Spencer lineage. It was a triumphant, albeit quiet, return to the stage, proving that history continues, and the tiara's light, though shadowed by the past, will never truly dim. So where is it now? In the Tower of London's Jewel House? In a vault at Buckingham Palace? No. The Spencer tiara's fate is as unique as its history. Today, its official custodian is Charles Spencer, the 9th Earl and Diana's brother. And its home is the ancestral Althorpe estate, nestled far from London's hustle and bustle. It does not belong to the state or the crown. It remains private property, a family heirloom whose fame has long transcended the boundaries of a single family. And in this lies its central paradox. De jure, it is a private adornment. De facto, it is a global cultural asset. It has achieved that status where an object ceases to be merely a thing and becomes an artifact. It is no longer possible to perceive it as an accessory that can simply be worn for an evening. Each of its appearances is an event, imbued with historical and emotional significance. And although the weddings of Diana's nieces showed that it still fulfills its familial function, these are merely exceptions that prove the rule. The Spencer tiara is, first and foremost, an exhibit. Any discussion of its value inevitably arrives at the word priceless. Of course, it possesses material worth, magnificent antique cut diamonds, platinum, the filigree work of the master jewelers at Garrard. To this is added immense historical value, a century-long saga of one of England's most distinguished families encapsulated in metal. But all of this pales before the main factor that transforms it into a treasure of planetary scale. That is its provenance, its inseparable connection to Diana, Princess of Wales. To try to quantify its worth in money would be like attempting to appraise the Mona Lisa or a Shakespeare autograph. Yes, auction experts might speak of tens of millions of dollars, but any figure would be insultingly small because it fails to reflect the core element, its emotional capital. This tiara is materialized memory, and its true value is measured not in carats, but in the beating hearts of millions of people. So, we began our story with a question. Why did Diana not wear that other majestic Spencer tiara? Now the answer is clear. Behind that choice lay something more profound than mere aesthetics or comfort. By rejecting the heavy Victorian honeysuckle diadem, she instinctively rejected a world of strict rules and conventions. By choosing the light, floral garland, she chose herself. She chose a symbol not of power, but of personality, not of protocol, but of soul. And this choice, made at the very beginning of her journey, proved prophetic, predetermining her entire subsequent fate. This is precisely why the history of this tiara is so captivating. It ceased to be merely a piece of jewelry. It became a vessel filled to the brim with human passions. Its diamonds reflected the ambitions of an old lineage and the hopes of a young bride. It was a silent witness to love and loneliness, triumph and despair, family pride and crushing tragedy. It absorbed laughter and tears, the glow of spotlights, and the darkness of palace corridors. This tiara is not just a collection of precious stones set in platinum. It is the physical embodiment of an entire era. Gazing upon it, we see not merely a jewelry masterpiece, we see a mirror in which was reflected the destiny of one of the most famous and beloved women in history. Its light is the gleam of her smile, its elegance is the echo of her grace, its enduring value is the measure of the love she left behind. The fate of the two Spencer tiaras, the one that became an icon and the one that was sold and lost to the family, has become a metaphor for life itself. It speaks to us of choice and its consequences, of the fragility of heritage, and of how one personality can transform a beautiful object into an immortal symbol. What then is the Spencer tiara today? It is not just a family heirloom. It is a page of history, frozen in diamonds. It is proof that the true value of a treasure is measured not in carats, but in the legends it spawns. For great masterpieces aren't simply crafted by jewelers. Their true narrative is penned by the lives of those who wear them. And within the icy, everlasting sparkle of those diamonds, a fragment of the warm, beating heart they once crowned is forever crystallized.